Okay, I think I'm live. All right, there we go, baby. Live and talking about Liverpool. I don't have an intro video because I'm an amateur, so hold on. Let me figure this out. How do I see myself? I don't think I can see myself. That's okay. Do I have a link anywhere? How do I? No. No. Where's the link to the actual video itself? Aha, there we go. All right. So I am live. It is working. Okay. Liverpool, Manchester United, Das Hype. There we go, baby. Liverpool, Manchester United. A lot of people saying a lot of different things about this game, about this result, about this fan base, about this league, about this sport, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter. A lot of people with a lot of talk. This is really fucking weird being here by myself without other people, but we're just going to have to go with it because for some reason I woke up in a fuck it mood. Um, and that's right, Staffy. I do have a view. In fact, I got 3 viewers. So that's 3 natural human beings made of organic material who are watching me. But either way, first and foremost, it's hard for me to stop smirking because I'm here by myself. This is mad weird. This is like a complete trip out. It's mad weird. I need to just like talk and not think about it. But anyway, first and foremost, the result, right? I know. Thank you, TJ. First and foremost, the result. A draw against Manchester United, not the greatest thing in the world. But I also don't think that we should be looking deep into the result. At the end of the day, this is a derby. This is the biggest derby in England. It's probably the most watched game in the Premier League around the world. Manchester United versus Liverpool is the biggest, right? So if you look at it from that sense, a draw is not the end of the world. If you look at it from the sense of the Premier League table and you want to take into the context of Manchester United being where they are, that's fine. But I think that if you just look at the fact that they're 14th, 13th, that's conceded. You're not diving into the context. Why are they there? Because they decided to continue with Eric Ten Hag, who is clearly not the man, because they won a small cup. Because of that, they essentially lost 3 months out of their season. The first time we played them this year, we battered them 3-0 away from home. You can't really deep that because they have a different manager now. I also can't take their league position into context. I'm sorry, I can't take their league position without context. I can't just look at them and say, this is a mid-table club. Ruben Amorim has been here for how long? Eventually, this team was going to get their act together against a certain team. It just so happened to be us in the biggest game of the season. It's that simple. So to say that this is the worst Manchester United team that we've ever seen and we drew against them, that's you're pulling it out of context. You're basically blowing smoke out of your own ass and you're disrespecting Ruben Amorim. I don't think that they have the greatest players. I don't think that they have the greatest squad, but if you watch their games over the last 6 weeks, they've had the ability to score goals. They've simply not been clinical. That's it. Manchester United have created more chances under Ruben Amorim than they did under Eric Ten Hag, yet they've lost games. That's just a clinical issue that has nothing to do with the side itself. So first and foremost, people taking this result out of context, people looking at this at a surface value, people not understanding the derby aspect, the rivalry aspect, and basically saying you bottled it. When ultimately we didn't bottle anything. A draw is a poor result. A draw against Manchester United is a poor result. A draw in a game that you feel like you could have won is a poor result. But ultimately, you have a game in hand and you're 6 points clear. At the end of the day, it's not the worst thing on the planet to draw this game, especially when you consider the fact that Chelsea and Arsenal also drew. So essentially, this game didn't even happen because the table remains unchanged at the weekend. So with all of the context out of the way, it's still upsetting, right? If you look at this game from an in-depth perspective, let's start with United, right? United feel like they could have won that. They're disappointed with the draw, and I understand that. But ultimately, 90% of United's attacks came from one side of the pitch. While it was a very concentrated game plan that was executed with, perfection, essentially, it was a one-dimensional game plan. Attack Trent. That's it. For 83 minutes, it was loft it to Delo and attack Trent because he will be out of position. And they did it to perfection. Kobe Manuel Ugarte, they gave Curtis Jones a terrible time, but Curtis Jones is not a 10. We missed Soboslai. Nonetheless, that's not an excuse for Curtis Jones to put in a performance like that. But at the same time, I have to look at that with context too. I can't just stick a player in a position and say, hey, give me a world-class performance. That's a little bit conceited, right? So can't look too deep into Curtis Jones. Can't look too deep into Alexis McAllister and Ryan Gravenberch because both of them played exceptionally. Can't look too deep into Andrew Robertson because for the most part, pretty fair performance. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, which is all I'm expecting out of him. And I don't blame Ahmad's goal on him whatsoever. United's game plan was simple. Sit back, absorb pressure, don't give away any space, compact the box with 6 guys. Second we get the ball, down the left-hand side of the pitch. That's it. That's all they did. Compact, defense, send it to Delo. Delo will beat Trent. Delo, figure it out. I mean, people forget about the first ball that Delo put into Amad Diallo. If that's on the ground, 1-0, right? But at the same time, I could flip the script and I could say, well, if Alexis McAllister finished his chance, that's 1-0 to us. When I look at this game, what I see is a team that executed a game plan to perfection and rose to the occasion, and that was Manchester United. But that game plan was one-dimensional. And if you took away that one dimension from that game plan, i.e. Trent Alexander-Arnold, that game plan does not work. And you could say that I'm pigeonholing, and you could say that I'm overdoing blame on Trent, but I just disagree. Because what I hear other people talking about in their analysis of this game is how the attack was poor, how our buildup was poor, how our control of possession was poor, how our front three needed to be better, how Luis Diaz ghosted, how Curtis Jones was completely absent from the pitch. Why? Why are you looking at the attack? Look at the amount of attacks that we had against Manchester United. Cody Gakpo misses a one-on-one. A difficult chance. Don't expect him to score, right? But I've seen him score that. So that's a chance. I have to mark that down. But it's not a guaranteed goal. Alexis McAllister, 15 minutes into the game, decides to take a volley first time when he could have taken a touch. But again, McAllister was a baller yesterday, so I'm not going to pigeonhole on that. But it's still a clear-cut opportunity one-on-one from a brilliant ball by Mo Salah. People say that Mo Salah ghosted. Did you see that fucking pass? There was no one within 10 yards of Alexis McAllister. World class to find him and place it that perfectly. You have Diogo Jota's 3 chances at the end of the game, one of which came directly after Lenny Yoro made one of the best tackles I have seen all season against Darwin Núñez. The ball falls kindly to Diogo Jota. He takes a touch inside. He's at the center of the box. I'm not going to blame him for kicking it right at Onana because I don't run full speed and I don't kick fucking soccer balls for a living. I can't imagine how difficult that is given the fact that it's also in the 89th minute, but the shot could have been better. That's another chance. So that's 3 clear-cut chances from the center of the park. Then we can look at Connor Bradley. Connor Bradley, I mean, literally directly after that, Connor Bradley gets the ball. He literally nutmegs Bruno Fernandes, gets to the byline. Again, can't really blame him for not squaring that across the middle because it was crowded, but Mo was wide open. He decides to try to sneak it in, and Onana gets a hand on it. That's 4 chances that I can think of off the top of my head that we could have created a goal. That's not even including the penalty, which we actually did score. And that's not even including Cody Gakpo's goal, which we actually did score. So that's 6 chances. You're telling me that Liverpool, the best team on the planet at the current moment, need more than 6 chances to beat the worst Manchester United team that we have seen in history? And that's ignoring the context of where Manchester United are and why they are there? I just bullshit. I call utter fucking bullshit on that. You cannot look at this game and blame Liverpool's attack. It doesn't make any sense. It is a surface level conceited opinion. It's dry. It's pathetic. I should not need more than 2 goals to beat a team that has not scored on my ground in 5 years. I should not be conceding 2 goals to a team that has not scored on my ground in 5 years, to a team that has a negative goal differential, to a team that finished with a negative goal differential last season, or maybe it was even. I don't know. But they were negative for pretty much the entire year. I should not need 2 goals. I should need 1. And I sure as shit should not need more than 2. But nonetheless, I had 6 opportunities, 6 clear-cut chances that I can think of off the top of my head without rewatching highlights or the game that I could have scored. And we only finished 2 of them. Manchester United. Let's really deep the opportunities that they had. Rasmus Højlund's one-on-one, which was because Trent Alexander-Arnold was 8 yards off the fucking offside line to begin the sequence of play, right? It's not the direct sequence, but the ball in behind that started that, Trent was 8 yards past the rest of the line, holding the low onside. Then, of course, the run of play goes on. Konate is out of position because Trent's out of position. Rasmus Højlund gets in behind, but I have the best goalkeeper in the world, so I back him to make a one-on-one save at least once per game. So I think even United fans would say, Højlund 1v1, it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. We see him miss these every week. Halas. Done, right? So you got that one opportunity. You have the low cross to Amad Diallo. Not a clear-cut opportunity because of how poor the ball was, but nonetheless, it leads to another shot by Kobbie Mainoo that gets blocked. That's an opportunity. What else did we have? We have the opportunity in, I believe, the 72nd minute when Trent puts the laziest ball back to Virgil I have ever seen in my life. And Amad Diallo goes sprinting down. And because their left winger is Alejandro Garnacho, they don't even get a shot out of it. Virgil van Dijk blocks it. Then he gives him the death there. So that's 3. But again, who is the cause of that? Trent. The only chance that I can think of that United generated that had real goal-scoring opportunity that may or may not have been offside, that didn't come down Trent's side, was the Xerxes to Maguire miss. That's it. Outside of that one moment, every single opportunity created by Manchester United either came off of a set piece, which is given, or down Trent's side. And Staffy says that you would have targeted Robo using Ahmad. Maybe. But at least I know that Robertson would put in the effort. At least I know that he would put off Amad Diallo. Not to mention, Amad Diallo was having an exceptionally poor game up until the point where he scored that goal. I think he fell like 3 or 4 times. He was finding it difficult to get involved in the game. And honestly, it's probably because they were so adamant about attacking the one side that he just wasn't necessary to the game plan, which is fine. But I back Robbo with Virgil more than I back Trent and Konate on one leg. Even though Konate is the reason why Trent has defended well this whole season. Defended well, quotation marks. He's been shit. But the only reason why people are even able to make that ridiculous notion is because Konate has been there. And then the second Konate left, and it had to be Trent and Joe Gomez, shit. We started conceding more goals. The clean sheets started to dry up. We conceded the same amount of goals in December that we did up until December. So I'm not gonna hear that. Ultimately, at least in my view, I think Liverpool had the better opportunities. I think we had the better chances. I think that United had better chances at the end of the game. I think that United were more one-dimensional in their game plan. And I think that United executed their game plan better than Liverpool were able to execute theirs. But nonetheless, we had more chances than United. And that's all that matters in my mind. So, yes, we should have won this game. But at the end of the day, a draw in context, in this specific moment, spectacle, if you want to call it, it's not the end of the world. 6-point lead, one game in hand. The game is against Everton. The game is in February. You win that game, it's a 9-point lead. The only poor thing about this is that we drop points at home, and now I have to go away to Nottingham Forest, and I have to go away to Brentford. And neither of those teams are poor. And I don't think either of those games are going to be easy. But nonetheless, I don't want to sit here and just go in circles because that's not even the real point. The game is the game. The game is whatever. We had more chances. We didn't score enough. They had their chances. They took them. They attacked one person. That one person is Trent Alexander-Arnold. And if you're going to look at this Liverpool game and you're going to bring up any criticisms, two things. Number one, Arne Slot made one mistake this game. Trent Alexander-Arnold played 83 minutes. Despicably disgraceful. His biggest tactical error of the season by far. Biggest managerial error of Arne Slot's career as a Liverpool manager was allowing Trent Alexander-Arnold to play 83 minutes against Manchester United. No sense. I would have put anyone else there. The second we go up 2-1, anyone else should have been on the pitch. I would have taken, literally, I would have put Kelleher on as right back. I would have put Endo on as right back. I would have put fucking Darwin Núñez on as right back. I would have put anyone in the crowd, any of the 63,000 people watching this game in Anfield, I would have put on at right back. I just would have pulled you out of the crowd. I would have put you in a fucking kit, and I would have stuck you on the field. Because anyone with a pulse could have done a better defensive shift. It is Trent Alexander's fault entirely for the first goal. Number one, he's out of position to allow Dalot to get in behind him. Number two, he gets the ball back, kicks it directly to Bruno Fernandes. Number three, once Bruno Fernandes gets the ball back, he's just walking around. He's got his hands in his pockets. Literally, hands in his pockets, chilling, walking. Oh, you're going to walk right by me? You're 3 feet ahead? Yes. Konate's got it. He's on one leg, but don't worry about it. You got all that little like metallic tape. It's all good. He's just going to clean up for me. No fucking biggie, bro. Right through Lisandro Martinez, brilliant finish, right? I mean, at the end of the day, was that a clear-cut chance? No. It was a ridiculous finish. And credit to him. Great goal. But entirely because of Trent Alexander-Arnold. The second goal. Trent's out of position. Ball gets in behind. Konate has to go cover and play right back. So now it's Trent's job to play center back. Virgil van Dijk is man-marking Rasmus Højlund. Trent has the bright idea of marking nobody. You know, I think I might see someone directly in front of me, so I'm just going to run this way. Doesn't cover the center of the park to prevent the cutback pass, the same pass that Southampton used to beat us. I'm sorry, not to beat us. The same pass that Southampton used to score against us. Literally, it's the same play. And I've seen it multiple times this season. Teams driving down that side, cut ball, boom, goal. Leicester did it too. Fulham did it too. This is a pattern of teams attacking that side while Trent is playing that same pass and just hoping, right? If Trent is not tracking a ghost runner, he's able to clear that pass. He's able to get a foot on it. But because he's essentially double marking one of the worst strikers in the league, while the best defender in the league is man marking him, the ball goes by him. Amad Diallo gets it. Secondary blame has to go on Alisson because if you rewatch it, which I implore you to do, Alisson is at least a yard off of his line. He's hugging the right post when the cross comes in. By the time Amad Diallo shoots the ball, he's on the right side of the goal. He's not in the center. If you go back and you watch it, his hand's about 5 inches from the ball. If he's literally 5 inches to his left and more at the center of the goal, he gets a hand on it, that gets saved, it remains 2-1. And there's no one there who's bombing down the right side of the pitch to put that in. If Allison saves that and parries it to the left, there's no one there to get a rebound. Allison has enough time to get up. It is what it is. But again, I'm not going to blame the symptom for the root cause. The root cause there is that Trent failed to do his job covering for Konate, who was covering for Trent. Then we want to push it another step further. Multiple times in this game, did we have a position where Trent picked up the ball, we could play a counterattack, and Trent just essentially kicked it right back to him. Like every single positive that people have for Trent was revolved around his offensive attributes. But his offensive attributes have been bang average this season. He's been doing it all year. Yes. The ball did go, it went in between Robertson's legs. I'm not blaming Allison, but ultimately, you have to look at everything from a top-down perspective. You have to be objective. Allison is a yard off of his line. He's not at the center of the goal. When a ball comes in across face, got to be at the center. It's that simple. You got to be able to go either way. And when you look at it and you watch it in slow motion, it was this close to getting a hand on it. If he's this much further to his left towards the center of the goal, he's able to save it. But that's the symptom. That's not the root cause, right? We don't look at symptoms here. We're doctors. We find the root cause, we cure that, and the symptom goes away. Right now, the symptom is that we're conceding goals from the right side of the pitch. The cause is Trent Alexander-Arnold. The evidence that that's the cause is our best defensive record was with Bradley and Konate. Consistent clean sheets against the best teams in the world. And we were not conceding those same dangerous chances over and over in the same manner. Yes, sometimes we conceded goals, but it was not a repeat offense. Look at the goals that we conceded at the beginning of the season. Most of them were just world-class finishes, and none of them had a consistent tendency. None of them were the same. There's the goal that we conceded against Brighton is in no way similar to the goal that we conceded against AC Milan, and is in no way similar to the goal that we conceded against Nottingham Forest. There are no similarities. Those are singular instances in which a team was able to finish something with class. Whereas now, without Konate and without Connor Bradley, we're seeing a consistent pattern in which we are conceding not only chances, but goals. Patterns tell you everything in this sport. Don't just look at it from without context, surface level. You have to dig deeper. You have to ask yourself, why is it that out of all of these goals that I have conceded recently, all of them are coming down that side of the pitch? Look at the Newcastle game. 2 of their 3 goals came from the right side. One of them was from a free kick. Kelleher should be doing better, but also Trent should be tracking his runner better. Anthony Gordon, where did he score from? Right side of the pitch. Isak, world-class finish. We don't look at those. It is what it is. Someone finishes like that, I'm not deep in it. You turned over Virgil van Dijk and you finished it from outside the box. Whatever. All good. Fulham, both goals coming from that side. Number 1, the cross came in from that side. Yes, it was finished on Andrew Robertson's post, but the ball came from Trent's side. And then, of course, the second goal, drive down to the byline where it's Trent's side, cross it in. Also, who was not holding the offside line on that play? Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yes, he did improve defensively this season if you don't look at the root cause of why he improved defensively this season. The only reason why he improved defensively this season is because Ibrahima Konate is a fucking absolute demon. And he's the best center back on this team when he's healthy. And he plays 2 positions at once. Trent's best defensive performances this season, yes, at certain times he has won duels and he has shut certain players down, players of not the greatest quality. But the majority of his exceptional defensive work is ushering the player to the byline, who then sends a cross in and Konate is there to block it. Or Trent tries to usher him to the byline, the player goes around him, and big boy Konate is right there to take the ball away. It's not Trent, right? It's just Trent putting in effort so that Konate has an easier job. But none of it has to do with Trent. And all of those offensive attributes, few and far between, right? For every 10 passes Trent Alexander-Arnold makes, maybe one of them leads to something. And those one through multiple games have masked all of these problems that I've been trying to say for weeks. All of them. I've gone on Hussam's show for 6 straight weeks and tried to call out Trent, and then people try to give me shit. And then, of course, he drops a stinker like this, and everyone says, oh, it's because Real Madrid's in his head. No, it's because you're too fucking blind and you haven't woken up to the fact that he's been fucking shit this season. He's been dog shit. He was good against Manchester City, and he was the best player on the pitch against Newcastle. Against Newcastle, he was a substitute, and he did his fucking job. And I'm going to give him credit for that. And against Man City, he was immense. Defensively excellent and offensively excellent. Against Arsenal, he had one moment that led to an equalizer. Credit to him. And he's had those throughout the season. But they're few and far between, and it's 1 out of 10. If not, maybe even 1 out of 15. But also, if you look at that Arsenal game, how many times did Trent pick up the ball in a defensive area and give the ball right fucking back to them? And you can't sit here and tell me that that's instruction. Arne Slot is not telling him to get the ball and play a hero ball every time. It's not. And you can't sit here and tell me that, well, why don't we just play someone else? Because we haven't had the option to play someone else recently. Joe Gomez has had to play center back, and Connor Bradley has been hurt. So Trent has had to be the right back for all of these drop points. Fulham, Newcastle, Manchester United. Trent is the right back. Only time that I can think that we dropped points with Connor Bradley in there was when he came on as a substitute so that Trent could advert into midfield against Nottingham Forest, and then we concede. But at the same time, Connor Bradley is allowed to make these mistakes because he's 6 years younger than him. Yet for some reason, someone who's 6 years younger than you in 3 minutes wins more duels than you did in 83 minutes, and in 10 minutes creates one of the most dangerous chances of the game when you weren't able to create shit. You also got pulled off corners. No, I don't think that this has anything to do with the game. Anything about the contracts has nothing to do with this performance whatsoever, because this has been a consistent theme. No one has been looking at it. People have ignored it. People are stuck in this mentality that it's 2017 and Trent has 14 assists in the Premier League. That's kind of where we all are. People have become infatuated with the idea of what he could possibly do, which, again, I'm no stranger to. He is potentially the best ball striker on the planet. He is one of the most creative players in the history of the Premier League. But he is not even, if we were to look at it from a perspective, and the Premier League are the GOATs, he's in like non-league play this season in terms of offensive output. You know, he's Wrexham, and the top of the league is Real Madrid. So top form, Trent Alexander-Arnold is Real Madrid. Current form, Trent Alexander-Arnold is Wrexham. It's the best way that I could possibly put it. But everyone thinks that he's Real Madrid. But he's not, and he hasn't been. He's just had like 5 or 6 Real Madrid moments across 2,000 minutes. The issue that I have right now is that if I play Connor Bradley, I know that I'm at least getting a 6 out of 10. Maybe he doesn't create an offensive opportunity. Maybe he concedes a world-class goal. But for the most part, I know that I'm getting a solid performance out of him, and that he's not going to be walking on the pitch, and that he's going to give me all of his effort, and that he's going to make crunching tackles, which is what I want. Someone who does the fundamentals consistently, not perfect, but good. Consistently a 6 out of 10 with the occasional 8 to 9. Whereas right now, for Trent, it's either a 2 out of 10 masked with an assist or a key pass, or it's a 10 out of 10 off the bench. That's it. And you want now you want me to turn around, you want me to pay 300 grand a week for that? That's ridiculous. Maybe the contract had something to do with his mental state, but again, I think that that's surface level. You've had all of this time to think about this. And one measly bid of 20 million shouldn't be putting you off because they've been hunting you for the whole season. So you're telling me, oh, well, now that the light's in my face, I'm a deer and I'm frozen in the headlights. Well, that's weak mentality. And I don't even think that that has anything to do with it. I just think that this is the same performance I've seen from Trent all season. It's just that he didn't have that one pass. And genuinely, if Trent had an assist yesterday, or had created the opportunity for someone else to get an assist, and we won that game, people would have masked it. If Amad Diallo had not scored that second goal, people would have masked it. I'm not in a barber chair. I'm in a fucking $500 Herman Miller. But that sounded like a brag. I overpay for chairs because I sit down all day. If we had won that game, people would have masked over these issues. I'm telling you, because they've done it all season. If we had scored a third goal, people would have masked over these issues. No one would be talking about Trent. No one. People would say, his performance wasn't great. But he's Trent, you know? He's got all this potential. He's so good. He's the best player in the world. No one can touch a ball like him. He's the man. We love him. He's a Scouser, born and bred. Alexander-Arnold, the Scouser in our team. It's all good, brother. Everyone's allowed to have a stinker here and there. Nah, we're being too harsh. We picked up the 3 points. Don't worry about it. Bullshit. It's bullshit. Trent can't be bad, that bad. Otherwise, Madrid wouldn't want him. Madrid want him because Florentino Perez falls in love with the ideas of players, right? Kylian Mbappe still has not figured out how to play with that team, even though it's the best team in the world. Adding Trent Alexander-Arnold into that team is not comparable to Trent Alexander-Arnold in Liverpool, because Real Madrid will morph the way they play to make up for it in a more capable way than we are. And that's just the simple fact of the matter. They will cater to him more. But regardless, I don't think that he'll do. I do not think that he will do well there. I don't. I think that he will put in defensive stinkers like this for Real Madrid all of the time. And people might say, well, you're just being conceited, or you have an agenda, or you just hate him. Trent does this every week. Trent has done this all season. The only difference between United and all of the other games is that teams did not have the proper quality to finish. That's it. Literally, that's it. Trent has been bailed out, either by the opposing team or Ibrahima Konate. And his offensive output is not good enough to rectify those errors. It has not been good enough this season. Whether that's instructional to kick the ball long, that doesn't matter, because you can't even do the fundamentals correctly. And the pass back to Virgil yesterday, which led to the fucking death stare, is the perfect example of that. And supposedly, after the game, Stewart said that there was a lot of commotion in the locker room and that Virgil got chest to chest with Trent. And I don't fucking blame him, because you're now bringing in a parasite to this team when this team is on the pinnacle of the mountain. We're at the top of Mount Everest right now. People who are upset about us not going 8 points clear, that's a luxury, right? Like, we're 6 points clear with a game in hand. That's fucking luxurious. I might as well be a fucking billionaire. But now you got people who are greedy, and they're upset because they want $2 billion. They don't want one, because one isn't enough, right? $1 billion isn't enough to live. Like, let's not fucking kid ourselves. I could buy like one super yacht with that and maybe one penthouse apartment in New York for 200 million. Now I'm only left with 600. That's bullshit. That's not enough money. I need another billion. That second billion is another 3 points. It's a luxury. It would have been beautiful to have, but at the end of the day, like we said at the beginning, and if we look at the context, it's not the end of the world. So we still have $1 billion. I still have a game in hand. I'm still 6 points clear. It's that simple. But ultimately, having Trent right now is kind of the same. It's a luxury to have that kind of player. But that luxury, it's going down in value because it's not outputting. I'm not getting a return on my investment at the current moment. I'm getting like one every 6 games. And yeah, sure, he's won us some points this season. I have to give him credit. But I would rather someone be consistent than be an X factor randomly. Another Coutinho, I don't think it's comparable, because again, the Barcelona where Coutinho went is in no way, shape, or form similar to the Real Madrid that Trent would be going to. The only issue with Trent at Real Madrid, I think offensively he'll be fine. Like, I think he'll be able to create opportunity for them. But at the end of the day, what's the real reason why they want him? Carvajal has an ACL injury, and he would be free, or $20 million, which, let's be real, to Real Madrid, getting Trent for $20 million is fucking free. So, make no mistake about it, they're going here for the bargain. And if it doesn't happen, can you sit there and honestly tell me that Real Madrid would be any worse if it was Pedro Porro over Trent Alexander-Arnold? If you think that, fine, I'm not going to argue with you, but I just think that that's lunacy. Trent Alexander-Arnold or Pedro Porro, it doesn't make a difference. They win just as many games. Neither of them are going to completely change that team. I don't think that we're going to lose out on the title because of Trent. I still think that we're going to win. I still think that we will hold on to this lead. I still think that we're going to go to Nottingham Forest and bounce back. But it doesn't change the fact that that's a real problem in this team right now. And I think that currently Connor Bradley is the solution. But it's not even just about the performances. Yesterday is the same performance that we saw all season. It's just that he didn't have the one key pass and teams were clinical. But it's the same shit, right? So there's nothing new there. The only real difference between yesterday and the rest of the season is that I would say on average his effort is like 40%, and yesterday it was 0. That's the issue that I have. The Trent Alexander-Arnold that first came up into this team, the very first game that I saw him, was bombing down the pitch and putting in the effort. If Trent had put in the effort against Bruno Fernandes yesterday and at least committed a foul instead of just standing there, that goal wouldn't have happened. Like, we don't even have to sit here and ask him to be a good defender. We just have to sit here and ask him to put in the effort to put players off. Make it more difficult. Don't make it easy. Do something to be a nuisance. If you can't win a duel, then take away a passing lane. If you can't take away a passing lane, then get physical. If you can't get physical, then fucking foul him. It's that simple. I think it would be ludicrous to ask Trent Alexander-Arnold to be a good defender. What I don't think is ludicrous is to ask him to make it more difficult for people, not to beat him, but to play the game. Don't make it easy. Make it harder. Getting in the way is making it harder. Being physical, getting a touch on the player is making it harder. You don't have to win it. Just make it harder for him to score it. That's it. And if he had done his job yesterday in doing that, we would not have conceded a fucking goal. And no one would be sitting here talking about the fucking offensive tactics and talking about the forward line, and talking about Mo Salah ghosting and Curtis Jones ghosting. You're looking at the wrong thing. The reason why we've dropped points lately is because we have conceded more goals. The reason why we have conceded more goals is because Trent Alexander-Arnold is on the pitch. That's simple. And if you think that's being harsh, I don't think that you're watching the games objectively. And I think you're playing favorites. And you're choosing to look at Trent Alexander-Arnold like it's 2017 when it's not. And this was the same thing last season. Gravenberch, so our plan is to make him play all 60 games at 100%. We are fucking with percentages. I don't think that we're going to make him play every single game. And I also don't think that he's playing at 100%. I don't even think that we kicked it into second gear yesterday. If we really kicked it into second gear yesterday, when we went up 2-1, we would have taken Trent off the pitch, brought on Endo, and we would have set up shop. But we didn't. That's just my honest opinion. And he's not the only player that showed a lack of effort, but we created enough to win. And his defensive liability is the reason why we conceded twice. It's that simple. So, maybe you think I'm being harsh on him. I don't. I think I'm just being objective about it, and I'm removing my bias and my love for Trent, and I'm looking at him like he's a stock on the Bloomberg terminal, and like I work for Goldman Sachs, because that's what these players are. They're all stocks, right? And yes, we love some stocks more than we love others, but at the end of the day, you have to take your emotion out of it, and you have to look objectively at the fucking Bloomberg terminal and say what's making me money and what's not making me money. You know, you made me a ton of money about 5 years ago. But to be honest, the returns, they're getting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Maybe sometimes, some months, you give me a up, and I'm like, oh, maybe he's back. But then the next month, you go right back down. Months being games, but too many metaphors. The issue is that we're not able to look at these things objectively, and we're not able to remove our emotions and say, what is the real root cause here? Why did these things happen? And the answer for yesterday's result is Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's that simple. And as for Ryan Gravenberch, he was fantastic yesterday. We do need backup for him, but we have bigger problems. I'd rather take a defender and a forward than another midfielder. Feels like it hasn't just been. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know what? Let's not even infer. Let's just go to Trent's stats. Trent Alexander-Arnold stats. Last season, 28 matches in the Premier League. 28 matches, 3 goals, 4 assists. The season before that, 2 goals, 9 assists. This season, 1 goal, 4 assists. Let's put into context. What's the goal that he scored? Tottenham? Pretty meaningless. Or was it West Ham? I don't know. All I know is it didn't make a difference, right? 4 assists. Fine. 18 games, 4 assists. You've already matched the amount of assists that you've had last season. Fantastic. But what's the percentages there? What's your crossing percentage? What's your key pass rate? What's your duels won? All of the other stats that I don't really feel like going too deeper into because that's going to take up too much time, but they're not good. So I don't think that he has been exceptional for the last 3 seasons. And I think that his defensive liability has been what has cost us in many games. But at the same time, I have to flip the coin and say he's also created goals for us. He's won points for us. He's done things for us. So it's like it's like Jekyll and Hyde. You know what I mean? I don't know which one I'm getting. And in a unique way, both of them are kind of assholes. If Trent my thoughts on this are very simple. If Trent Alexander-Arnold wants to leave, then he should tell the club, and the club should sell him. Because if you want to go, but you're too afraid of hurting the fan base, and then you continue to put in performances like this, the locker room is going to become a shit show. And if we lose the locker room, then we will lose the league. If Virgil van Dijk got in Trent Alexander-Arnold's face after the game yesterday and they needed to be separated, that's the last fucking thing that I need to hear about a team that's 6 points clear with a game in hand, with 2 tough away games coming up next. I don't want to hear that. We don't need locker room drama at this moment in the season. So he needs to make up his mind, and he either needs to take the absurd 5-year, 300 grand a week deal, which I don't even agree with because he's not worth that kind of money because I'm not getting a consistent performance out of him. Or we just need to sell him for 20 million. If we sell him, go out there, buy another right back, Connor Bradley, second right back, Robo, Tsimikas, hope that Konate stays healthy, and buy a forward. And we'll figure out the left back next season. If he wants to leave, sell him, shore up the right back now, figure out the left back in the summer, get a forward. Because we all know Darwin Núñez isn't good enough. But that's what I would do. The issue here is I think Trent's being selfish. And he's not saying what he wants, and he's not making up his mind. And now it's affecting the locker room. Because another way to look at this would be, if I'm Virgil van Dijk, and I see you put in a performance like that right after getting a bid, even though it might not be a part of the reason why you did that performance, I might have preconceived judgments against you. I might be emotional. I might call you out with false premise. I might say your head's in Madrid, even though it's not, but Madrid's bid puts that seed into my mind. It's like a parasite, you know what I mean? It might not be the truth, but now I believe it because I see it. But it's not the truth. But that creates a fracture. And a fracture in the locker room for a team on the top is what implodes you. If Liverpool implode, I think it would be less about our ability and more about the drama and the fractures that are going on inside the locker room. And right now, the symptom is the bid from Real Madrid, but the root cause is that Trent can't make up his fucking mind and tell the club what he wants to do, and which is inherently selfish because you've had all of this time to think about it. And if it's not made up now, when is it going to be made up? Because I can't let this fucking linger on. And at the current moment, if I'm Arne Slot, Trent, you're playing against Tottenham, but you ain't seeing a fucking Premier League pitch until I see a better performance out of you. You're starting against Tottenham, and if I see that same level of effort, I'm hooking you for Endo. And then you're not showing up against Forest. I don't care if we need you. I don't care if we're down 3-0. You're not showing up. But ultimately, it's planting a parasite in the locker room, and now players are going to have judgments against him. Even though they may not be true, those judgments will be there. And there's nothing worse than someone getting angry at you for something that's not true, especially if you can't tell them the truth, because that creates another fracture. And now that creates this distrust amongst the whole locker room. So it's a shit situation in a time where we're at the top of the fucking world. So it's garbage. Again, I mean, I'm not expecting Lucho to put in a 10 out of 10 every time he plays the 9. I don't think that he was particularly amazing, but also you have to credit United. They defended with like 6 players for most of the game. They did a really good job. And yet we still created those 6 chances mentioned before. So, yes, he wasn't fantastic, but United defended really well. And at the end of the day, we created enough to win that game. So, I'm not going to look too deep into Lucho. Again, you have to. I'd only accept the bid if Trent came to me and said, "Hey, I want to go." Then I'd accept it on the day. But he has to make that decision. The club can't make it for him, right? Because imagine if we accepted the bid and it turns out that he wanted to stay. Then he could hold it against us. Then he could be a real dick about it. And then he could say that we betrayed him. Even though if he really wanted to go, he could just say that he didn't because he never said that he wanted to. So they're in a really sticky situation because they need to be careful about it because he is the hometown boy and people are overly emotional in this sport. And they essentially need his word that, hey, I'm leaving. And without that word, you can't really make a decision. But to be honest with you, because of how long it's taken, I don't even know if they want him. I don't even know if Arne Slot wants him. I know that he came out and he defended him, but like that's what a manager does. He has to do that. I don't expect you to ever demonize a player publicly. So all good. I got no issues with what Slot's doing, with what Richard Hughes is doing, with what Michael Edwards is doing. Ultimately, Trent has to say, I want to stay or I want to go. And the longer he doesn't give us an answer, the more into shit we dig ourselves. And then it becomes a problem of, okay, how deep is this going to go? Where does this end? And, you know, maybe it leads to things like Virgil van Dijk getting in his face. But ultimately, that's also Trent's fault because he's the reason why we conceded 2 goals and his lack of effort was disgusting in the biggest game in English football. You put in a performance like that in the biggest game in the Premier League, you deserve to have your captain punch you in the fucking mouth because someone needs to try to wake you up because that was the worst performance I've ever seen from a right back, and I had to watch Nathaniel fucking Klein. I don't know what they've done. I don't know if they've done nothing. No one's being public about any of this shit. Supposedly, they offered a 5-year, 78 million something contract that would equate to like 300 grand a week. I'd rather them figure out Virgil and Mo first because those are the 2 guys that I want. And I don't think that this team is any worse without Trent. I think that this team is light years worse without Virgil or Mo. Without Virgil or Mo, we're not title contenders. Without Trent, we're fine. That's it. We'll just have to create one opportunity from somewhere else. And I believe in the other players' creativity. And Trent hasn't been creative this season. He's had a few moments, but he has not been consistently a guy on any level to anyone else in this league from any position creatively. he is lingering. He's just playing games, but at the same time, I think that people are pigeonholing their perspective on it, and that we're not looking at what the real problems have been. And a lot of people after this game have said that it's a Trent stinker, blah, 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 blee, blee, blee. And they're talking about it like it's just the United game, but it's been every game. Bar the City and Newcastle game, this has been the Trent of the season. And if you think otherwise, I'm going to say you haven't been watching this team, or you just haven't been objective in your analysis because you favor him, which is fine. I mean, not everyone can be, but Trent has done this all season. The only difference is that he has had a couple of moments that have overshadowed the defensive ineptitude. And Konate was the cover for his defensive woes, right? Like oh my God, Trent is good at defending. He's not. Konate is just the best coverer in the world. And he bailed him out time after time. And once Konate left, we started dropping points because Trent doesn't have his fucking shield. And that's not Joe Gomez's fault. That's Trent's fault. That's Arne Slot's fault. But it's also not Arne Slot's fault because Bradley was also hurt. And Gomez, who is the only other person who can play right back, has to play center back because he doesn't trust Kwanzaa. So it's not a good situation that we're in right now. I'm happy that Konate is back. I'm happy that Connor Bradley is back because that's my preferred back line. Bradley, Konate, Virgil, Tsimikas. Robbo's whatever. I don't think he's great, but I mean, when you compare him to when you compare Andrew Robertson to Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robbo's Cafu, and Trent is Nathaniel Klein. And, maybe if we were to take 10 games, 900 minutes, maybe for like 6 of those minutes, Trent is fucking Andrea Pirlo. But for the other 894 minutes, he's Nathaniel Klein. Or I can't even think of a worse right back, to be honest with you. Imagine fucking Flanagan played right back. There you go. There's a great comparison. But he's not been good, and people are pigeonholing this, and they're saying that this is a one-game thing, and I just disagree. But at the same time, it's not a condemnation of the entire season because we've been able to deal with it all year. We're 6 points clear. If we win our game in hand, I think that would be 49 points out of 60. I mean, if we win this game in hand, that's 49 points out of 60. That's unbelievable for having a blind mice as your right back. In fact, that's a feat in itself. You got 49 points with Trent as your fucking right back. That's absurd. 49 out of 60. That's ridiculous. I mean, if you took Trent out of the equation, maybe we would be 60 out of 60. I don't know. No, I'm not going to go there. But to me, ultimately, Trent, worst defender in the Premier League. But this particular day, he put in the worst effort out of anyone in Premier League history. And that's where I draw the line. I don't care if you're shit at defending. Just put players off. Make yourself a nuisance. And make it harder. Don't make it easy, which is what he did. And he's done it time and time again. I don't think that he's the future of this club. And personally, I probably wouldn't extend him. I know that might be controversial, but I would rather get someone who's going to give me consistent 7 out of 10s than someone who gives me the oddball 10 out of 10. Because if you look at a season over 38 games, and you have 5 10 out of 10 performances, but the rest of them are like 4s and 5s. And then I look at another guy and I have 38 7 out of 10s. I mean, which one is going to win you more games? Which one are you going to concede less in? The consistent 7 out of 10. And I think Bradley can be that guy. In fact, I think Connor Bradley could be the guy that gives you the oddball 10 out of 10s too. But overall, his fundamentals will be at a 7 out of 10. And I don't think that Trent's fundamentals are at a 7 out of 10 this season. And I don't even think that they were that way last season. And I don't think that they've been that way for a while. But who knows? Who knows? But then, going forward, you got Nottingham Forest, you've got Brentford, and then we have our game in hand. And from this point forward, you got to go one game at a time. And it's unfortunate that we dropped points, but so did everyone else. So essentially, this game didn't happen. And it just sucks that it was against United, because if it was against any other team, I don't think that this explosion would be the same. Like if we had drawn against Bournemouth at home, or we had drawn against Villa at home, I don't think that this implosion of the fact that we're not good enough to do it would occur. I think that that's a lot of reactionary bullshit. I think that this team are the favorites. I think that this is the best team in the league right now. I think that we have the best form in the league. I just think that we have, a nuclear fucking problem at right back. And fortunately for us, our starting right back is now healthy again and can retake his place on the throne, because our former Scouser boy is absolute dog shit and has not been putting in the effort and has not even been playing up to his own capabilities. So we got to drop the favoritism a little bit. We got to drop the Scouser in our the Scouser in our team chant, because that plays on our emotions, and it makes it impossible for us to look at this game objectively. And when you look at it objectively, we drop points because of Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's that simple. We created enough to win. We could have scored more, but we 100% should not have conceded 2 goals against this team, let alone in the fashion that we did. And 9 out of 10 of their attacks came down that side. So if they're unable to concentrate on Trent Alexander-Arnold for the whole game and attack us down that side, they don't get those chances. And the second Connor Bradley came in, it stopped working. So they stopped creating chances unless they were offset pieces. So what are you going to do? Let's see if Slot dealt with Kwanzaa like that for much less. What will he say to Trent? Do you reckon it changed Trent like the first 10 games? I don't think that Trent was changed in the first 10 games. I think that Konate bailed him out time after time after time. He wasn't even offensively good those first 10 games. So I think that you're masking the problem and you're not looking at it objectively. And you're discrediting Konate's immense performances and his covering of Trent, because Trent has not been good in any games other than City and Newcastle. He has had moments in games, but those moments took a 4 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10. And that's it. He has not been consistently fundamentally good, which I can't have from my right back in a system like this. I need a rock. I need you to be solid, which is why Bradley has been better. And then people are going to say, well, that's just the Mbappe tax for the 1 tackle. No, because Bradley's been better going forward than he has consistently. So I don't want to harp on it too much. But in my mind, Trent is just, he's not there anymore. He's not worth 300 grand a week. He's not worth all of this drama and emotion. And when you put an effort like that, he's not worth the badge. Because I don't care what your situation is, you cannot play like that and wear that shirt. You can't. Especially when you're the Scouser in the team. You cannot play like that and wear that shirt. In the biggest game in England, United versus Liverpool is the biggest game. And you couldn't be fucking asked to do shit. And every time you got the ball, you fucked up. You gave it right back to him. To be honest with you, it's like an identical performance to Arsenal, except that United finished their chances. It's literally the same fucking game. The potential card, again, it's emotion. He's our boy. Look what he's done. Look what he's capable of. Yeah, sure. But how many people have you met in your life who have showed you glimpses of unbelievable potential, but done nothing with it? They've had moments, they've made you go, wow. But for the most part, on average, you're looking at it, you're looking at them and you're saying, you could be so much better. That's Trent Alexander-Arnold. He wows you. He mystifies you. He makes you say, oh my God, you're amazing. And those few moments make you forget about all of the times you say, you're not this bad. You could be so much better. That's the problem. And that's not what I want at all. He is distracting the whole team, but it's also not entirely his fault because if he hasn't made up his mind, the media plays into it. The bids play up into it. Players get angry, but he hasn't made up his mind, which is his fault. But then I can also make false judgments. And it's just a fuck situation. No one wins here. They see this is too much. This is too much. Because it's not all his fault. It's his fault that we have been defensively inept. But at the same time, players should have finished more chances yesterday. Like the only thing that I'll say about everyone else is that players should have finished a little more. Players should have done a little better. And we had 6 real clear-cut opportunities. We scored 2 of them. But for the most part, we should have done better. We should have scored more. But we also shouldn't need to score more than 2 against United. And now we're going in circles. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Big up to everybody. We're still going to win the league. We're still 6 points in hand. I'm sorry. We're still going to win the league. We're still 6 points clear. We still have a game in hand. For all of the ineptitude of Trent Alexander-Arnold, this is still this is still Slot's first 6 months. We have 46 points out of, I believe, 57 possible points. It's only 11 points dropped through 19 games. It's fantastic. Only 1 loss. And when you really deep the result yesterday, you can't look at this United team as just being a mid-table club because they had a shit manager. They had to axe him, who bought shit players. They've now brought in a good manager, and now they need time to develop. And you'll get performances like this. And to be honest, I've seen performances like this. They just didn't finish their chances. And ultimately, it's the biggest game of the season, so I expect them to show up. Some of our players just decided not to. But it is what it is. We move. Don't look at this Trent as a microcosm. This has been an entire season's worth of bullshit and terrible performances. Don't get overly emotional when looking at players, and try to be objective in your analysis and remove your favoritisms from the equation and ask yourself, has he really been this way all year? And you'll find that the answer is yes. But anyway, big up to everybody, and hopefully we win the league.